So I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to today's session. So yesterday we concluded on exploration of the Excel window interface. So we dealt with the tab menus that we had not touched on. So including the data tab, page layout, the insert tab, the view, the review tab, and we went in detail and saw how you can interact with each one of them. So today we are going to cover a very interesting concept whenever you are working with Excel. So many a times when you are working as, let's say you are working as an MIS analyst or a workforce specialist, you might find that you are working in an ecosystem whereby you are interacting with various departments. Even within the internal departments, there's a way in which you interact. So this is what is called best practices in WFM or in MIS, or if you are working in any analytical role, you must know how to work with Excel workbooks. It's quite important to understand this because it lays the foundation of how to work professionally in the corporate world. So I'll just go through, I'll take you through to understand what worksheet and workbook management entails. What are the best practices when you are working with workbooks and also the worksheets? So we will delve into each and every concept. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to know how to work with Excel workbooks, the best practices, including the naming conventions, how to protect your workbook, how to share your workbooks, and so on. So there are so many things that we will cover today with regards to Excel workbook and worksheet management. So what do we understand by workbook and worksheet management? So this is the practice of organizing and maintaining and also controlling Excel workbooks in order to ensure accuracy, efficiency, security, and accessibility of data. So this is important in environments like contact centers. So when you're working in an analytical role, it's essential for you to know this. So when you're working in operations as well, this is also important. So what does workbook management aims to achieve? It aims to achieve that, to make sure that your data is accurate. What is in the Excel workbook is accurate. So for instance, if you decide you want to protect your workbook so that no third party can access that data. So that prevents data manipulation by third parties who might not, uh, who may not be parties to your organization or department. So that ensures accuracy and as well as security. And then there's a way in which you save Excel workbook in order to ensure efficiency. So there's a way when you save Excel, for instance, if you are working with large data set and you are trying to save that workbook, sometimes you might find that it takes a lot of time saving. That is because the file is large. So you need to find ways in which you can compress that large workbook in order for it to be efficient so that you can save it easily, and also you can share it with others. Yeah, so that is essentially what workbook and worksheet management is. So let us now go and look what are the key components of workbook management. So workbook management entails file organization and structuring. So let me just open an Excel workbook here, just a random one. To show you. So what do we mean by organization and structuring? So as I mentioned earlier, the naming conventions of your workbook also matter. So whenever you are working with your data, let's say you are working in WFM or MIS, and you have a workbook that you want to name as WFM schedules, right? So whenever you are naming that, you must ensure that it is descriptive, not just MIS schedule, because when you just say it's MIS schedule, so yes, it is a schedule, but which period does it apply to? Is it the schedules for January, for November, or which? You should always avoid generic names when you are naming your works. So this is not acceptable. For instance, you have just a work named book one. So this will bring confusion when you are working uh, with the workbooks. So you want to know the contents of each workbook because the way you've named them is not descriptive. And also, another thing to note when you are organizing and structuring your file is also the folder hierarchy. So before even we move this to this second point, let me just demonstrate how you can save your workbook in a descriptive way. So let's say in our in our workbook, so we know this is called plan for the arts, right? So we want to maybe create a folder called WFM. So we have a folder here called WFM. So this folder called WFM will contain everything related to WFM, right? And then we can have another folder called MIS. So anything related to MIS will be uh, in this folder. So what we are doing is we are avoiding that mix up of things. We need to appear organized, right? So anything regarding WFM, it will be in its folder. Anything regarding MIS in its folder. So let's begin. For instance, we have a file that we need to name it WFM schedules, and the schedules are for November. So I'll simply come to my file here. This is my WFM file. Come here, go to save as, then navigate to where we have our folder WFM. So this will name as WFM underscore schedules schedules that it's for November 2025. So that is descriptive. So when I see this, I know these are the WFM schedules for November. Simply click on save. So that when someone wants to access the schedules, maybe I have schedules from January till December. He or she can just come to this folder called WFM, and he or she can access all the schedules. So that is the best practice that you need to apply whenever you are working in any data analytic role, of which WFM and MIS is one of them. So and then we have the folder hierarchy. I think this I have explained. You can have a separate folder, each holding its own unique data set. For instance, you can have an operations folder, you can have an MIS reports folder, and so on. And then we have again what is called sheet organization. Now, now here is sheet organization. So what we are seeing here, this is the sheet, right? This is the sheet. So each sheet should contain data that is unique on its own. So the data on sheet 1 should not be the same as the data on sheet 2. So if maybe the first sheet maybe is holding the agent queues data on a day-on-day basis. So it should only contain agent queues alone. Maybe sheet 2 is maybe containing agent sheets. So I'm not expecting to find agent queues on this sheet. It should be just be specific to agent sheets. Maybe sheet 3 maybe contains break schedules for agents. So it should always contain that type of data alone and no mix up. So let's say sheet 1 contains agent queues, agent underscore queues. Also, we have a naming convention whenever you are naming your sheets. So when naming your sheets, make sure it's also descriptive, but not that long again. Just descriptive enough to know the contents of that sheet. And then we have agent shifts. And then we have that sheet called agent breaks schedules. Schedules like that. So you see now this is descriptive. How you name the worksheet, you can know what you are working on. So you know here you are just working with agent queues. This sheet, you are working with sheets alone. Here you are working with break schedules alone. Hope on the same page up to that point. So that is how you can achieve sheet organization. And also one thing is always whenever you have raw data, maybe from a system, right? Let's say we have the raw data. It should always be untouched. So don't do any raw data. It should be clean on its own. So separate raw data from your analytics. So any calculations, anything else, apart maybe if you are just adding the calculated columns or field, anything else should be done on a different sheet. This is what is being implied. So all calculations, formulas on a different sheet. Also dashboards should be on a different sheet. And then maybe on this sheet, on sheet 4, we can have schedule dashboard. Schedule dashboard in form of report. So this schedule dashboard will be referencing from agent queues, agent sheets, and also even the break schedules, right? So these ones are raw data which should be untouched on their own. But anything here regarding calculations, the dashboards should be also be on their own. Calculations. You see now that organization. So, but it's always best practice when you are doing your reporting. Your summaries always come first, like the dashboards. This is your report, then the data. And then to uh, another aspect or another component of work management is data accuracy and integrity. So, with this regard, you want the data on your worksheet to be accurate. So you can apply data validation rules. So data validation is used to limit the input errors. So, and this can be in form of a drop down, in form of a certain data format, like a date format or a numeric range. Now, this limitation of what can be entered in certain cells or range of cells, that is what is referred to as data validation. We also have the option for removing duplicates, and I believe this we saw yesterday. So each unique entry, when you're working with raw data, each row should have a unique record. No duplicates should be there in your data. So there's this saying that goes, garbage in is always equal to garbage out. So if now your data has so many duplicates, the report that you will get at the end won't reflect the true picture of what is happening in your data. So you must always make sure that your data doesn't contain duplicates. And then we have formulas and references. So when you've applied formulas and references to your data, so always make sure that those formulas are clean and also they are consistent. By doing that, you'll make sure that you do not have conflicts when Excel calculates or auto calculates the formulas. So because sometimes you can write heavy formulas in Excel but you find at some point those formulas break. Formulas do break. They are not working. So the reason being, those formulas were not clean and they were not structured. So the cell references were not done well. And also, maybe the name ranges was not also done properly. So when you keep your formulas clean and consistent, it will make you to reduce errors when you are doing your report. So another aspect for workbook management is version control. So when you're working as a data analyst or business analyst, or either MIS or WFM specialist, you might find that you need various version of your data. It's like having several copies of your data. So you must know how to save. Like for instance, I'm having November schedules. What I'm having here, I'm having November schedules, but let's say this is not final. So I might decide to name this as, let me just duplicate this. So let's say I'm maybe still experimenting with my schedules. So I can have WFM schedules November 2025, but this is version 1. Can you put underscore? This is version 1. Yeah, because that file is still open, it can't be saved. Let me use this. Version 1. So when I have a different draft, let's say version 2, this is version 2. See now how I'm naming it, right? And maybe I'll have the final copy. I can have now the final copy. This is final. So what essentially this is trying to achieve, it's trying to avoid confusion, because you might find that you've modified your schedules, but now you don't know even how to track the changes that you've made. So you don't know which is the first version, the second version, and maybe the final version of your completed schedules. So it's good practice to name it this way. So that is it with regards to version control. So also use timestamps. I believe we've used timestamps, like for instance, this is November 2025, version 1, November 2025, version 2. So always adopt those conventions whenever you are working with any data. It doesn't mean it's only in WFM or IMS alone, but that is applicable across. We also have another or even before I move to the fourth aspect or the fourth component, we have uh, cloud solutions. So you can always save your data in a secure place. It's like having a backup of your data so that the data that you have, you don't lose it. Or maybe you can start working on it and you don't have that backup that you can refer to. Maybe the data you are currently working with, maybe you can tamper with it. And at times you might need the original version just for reference. So you can keep it on OneDrive, or either you can even use a SharePoint or Google Sheets. That is for real-time version tracking. Yeah, so that was the aspect on version control. The other aspect is access and security. Very important. So if you want people not to actually alter your work or maybe mess up with your work or with your reports, you have to make sure that the access and security features are implemented on your workbook. So this can be achieved in terms of setting permissions, protecting the workbook itself, and also tracking, that is audit trail. So with permission, here you are aiming to restrict access to sensitive data. So your data need to be protected. For instance, you can assume that you are dealing with finance data and you know how this is very sensitive. You want only you or the people who are entitled to maybe to access that data. Only them should have access. So sensitive information, you always need to set permissions in terms of maybe setting passwords. So only authorized staff can be able to edit certain sheets. So, and we have various ways of setting permissions in your workbook. And those options are here as, let me just demonstrate. So when you want to set a permission to your workbook or to protect it, one of the ways you can do it from here under the review tab. And we went through this yesterday. So you can decide to protect your worksheet. So by protecting your worksheet, let's say this sheet, the summary dashboard, I do not want anyone to touch on it. I simply want only the WFM or the MIS team to have access to this. This. Yes, I can share this workbook with other team members or from other departments. Yes, they can be able to see the dashboard, but they can't do anything with it. They can't alter anything. That's simply because I have protected that worksheet. They can only be able to see the KPIs here, the metrics, the statistics, but they cannot be able to alter anything in this worksheet. So you can simply come here to protect worksheet. So whenever you are protecting your worksheet, you have to set a password. And you've realized when I click on here, that's on this tab, protect worksheet, it immediately opens this window. So you can just decide to deny all rights. They can just view the contents of the sheet, but they cannot alter anything. But alternatively, maybe you can decide to give them maybe some few rights to, to maybe edit that worksheet. So you can maybe decide, uh, let me just allow them to format maybe the cells or columns or even the rows, or let me just give them certain rights. But however, if you do not want them to touch on anything, you make sure all of these ones have been unselected. So here you set your password. Like for instance, let me put password here. So you have to put that password twice. You see, hope you can be able to see now what is happening to this worksheet. Nothing, even if I click anywhere on this sheet, nothing is happening simply because I have protected it. So for them to be able to edit, you have to unprotect. So you have to enter the password. Now you see when I've entered the password, I can be able now to edit the cell contents in this worksheet. You can also decide instead of maybe protecting the worksheet, you can now decide to protect the whole thing. That's the whole work. So you can come here, protect the workbook, enter password. So when someone opens this workbook, they will be forced to enter that password that I've just entered. And alternatively, another way of protecting your workbook is by using this tab here. This is the file menu tab. Come to save as, right? Come here because this is where we're saving. So under save as, immediately you see this window here. Immediately you see this. We have this section for tools. Hope you can be able to see this tools. Then in tools, you have to go to general options. So under general options, you have to put password to open that workbook. So let me put password here. Enter password again. But also take note of this warning alert. If you lose or forget the password, it cannot be recovered. It is advisable to keep a list of passwords and their corresponding workbooks and sheet names in a safe place. So always know that whenever you protect your workbook or worksheet, you must have a place where uh, you've saved those passwords just in case you forget. So when I close this, choose Excel. You see, the file that we have just protected. When someone now wants to open this, he or she must put that password. Now you have. So that was it in terms of accessibility and security. Also, you can implement the audit trail, track who made changes and when. So possible in Excel with track change, you can be able to know who exactly made the changes on your work. Assuming that uh, you are maybe more than two people in your department and you are sharing the same workbook. So when you implement an audit trail, it will be able to show who was the last person who interacted with that work. So another aspect of workbook and worksheet management is in terms of backup and recovery, of which I've talked about. So you should have regular backups to prevent accidental data loss whenever you are working with data. And then you can also have copies for disaster recovery. So this one, it means you have copies offline, offline away from where you are working. Just in case something bad happens, you don't lose your data, right? So you can have this in place. So I know you might be wondering why are we covering this? But this is actually essential because when you are an MIS analyst, that is management information systems. So you must know how information is flowing within an organization or within departments. And having information with you as an MIS is like an engine oil to the company. Because if you don't have these structures in place, what happens if you lose your data? So who will take that blame of data loss? It's eventually you as the MIS because you did not follow these documentations. You did not follow the best practices of working with data. So you must adhere to this if you want to operate like a professional. Also, if you want to operate in a structured manner, that is, you have a good or efficient infrastructure on how you operate. Another thing with regards to worksheet and work management is efficiency and also automation. So when you're working with Excel, the goal is also to achieve efficiency. You need to be efficient in your work. And you can achieve that by implementing automation. So what automation does, it allows you to minimize the manual work that you are doing on a day-on-day basis. So maybe every day you are doing a daily report that must always go out maybe by 8 a.m. in the morning. So that is a routine report. So when you implement automation of that report, uh, there are high chances you will achieve almost 99% accuracy because there is no manual intervention. So manual intervention sometimes uh, makes you commit some minor mistakes that you should not do or you shouldn't have done. So whenever you implement automation in your work or in your reports in Excel, it goes a long way in reducing the errors that you commit. So you can do automation majorly by using macros and VBA. So VBA is the engine of automation in Excel. So whenever maybe you want to share reports to different departments, maybe the customer experience department, you want to share the reports for each agent, maybe daily by 8 a.m. You can implement that using VBA or using the macros. And then if you are doing a daily report on a day-on-day basis, always that report should always have a structure. And that structure can mean coming up with a template, right? You can have a daily reports template. You can have a schedule adherence template. See, you can have many templates that track different KPIs. This avoids the burden of every day when you are doing your report, you begin from scratch. You see, maybe your work should only be just downloading the data from the various systems, like maybe ACD systems, that is called distributor systems, or even the CRM systems, or any other data system, and just dumping in Excel. And now, given that you have templates in place with maybe formulas or pivot tables, whenever you only dump that data, everything picks by itself because you have a template in place, and that guarantees efficiency. See, and also when you've implemented automation, like yes, you have a template, you've generated that report, but you need to share that report to stakeholders. Maybe it's your line manager that you are sharing that report to, right? So let's say your report has a certain body image structure that you want to maintain consistently when you are sharing that report, right? So you can automate now that process using VBA. So you can automate that so that whenever this report is complete, whenever you run that macro, it automatically sends the report to using that via email. Sorry. So that is it regarding efficiency and automation. Another aspect when you are working with Excel workbook and worksheets is you must have documentation. This is very important. Documentation. So assuming you are sharing your report uh, with third parties or with other stakeholders, remember they're just external. They don't know what is contained in your report. So you must have a documentation in place telling the people who will interact with that report what is in each worksheet and what that workbook entails. So you can have a documentation like a README sheet. You are you are telling the users who will interact with your Excel workbook. There is a README sheet. Whether this will enable them familiarize themselves with what is contained in that work. So take, I want you to view documentation as a glossary or as an index for reference. Yes, I have my Excel workbook here, for example. I must have a separate worksheet. So I can't add another worksheet, but I'll just use this sheet. So let's see if I can remember the password. But I can now, let me just open another workbook because this one I have protected it for us to move fast. Let's assume we have, you have a report and you have these 5 sheets. So maybe the first sheet, let's name it Q's just for now. Second sheet, let's say sheets. The other sheet, let's say breadth. And then the other sheet, uh, let's say I have a dashboard like that. So I must have sheet one. I can either call it readme sheet or an index, whichever you like. Yes, readme. So you can maybe have a glossary like cues. What does cues means? So you can put a description there. But maybe this you can label it parameter, and then here is description. So maybe you can put here a description. This represents agent queues. I will assume if anyone knows. So must have an index there, maybe shift represents agent shifts like that, like that. But remember, if you've used any terms, any abbreviations in your sheets, let's say you've used ASA. Not everyone knows what ASA means. So it means average speed of answer. Not everyone knows what AHT means. So this is average handle time. That is average handle time. So that is what a README sheet does. It tells the users who will interact with your workbook what is all parameters that are in that uh, workbook. So apart from that, you can even uh, before you even go to parameter and description, you can also describe the purpose of that work. What is the purpose of that workbook? What does it entails? So you put even here a description, and then these parameters like that, and also the description. So you can either label this sheet as a readme sheet, or you can label it as index, or glossary, like that. So this is what we mean by proper documentation. Very important when you are dealing with data. So assuming you are sending your report to the stakeholders of the business, then you will be shocked. The director is asking you, what did you mean by AHT? What did you mean by ASA? You see, so this one saves you that. So immediately he or she comes to glossary section or the readme section, he or she can find all the descriptions of what is in that workbook. Hop on the same page up to that point. So let us just wrap up what we've covered so far. So including the best practices when you are working with Excel workbooks. So one of the best practices is the naming. The way you name your workbooks matters a lot. So best practices for naming entails that the name of your workbook should be descriptive. You shouldn't just name your workbook like schedules, just like that. So that is not descriptive. So you must give descriptive name, but also bear in mind it should be a short descriptive name that someone can decipher the meaning at a glance. So you should not write very long descriptive names. And then it should also include dates and also the versions. So I think this I have demonstrated. Also the folder hierarchy, again, it should be logical and easy to navigate. So assuming you are working in one department and you are using a shared folder, right? So let's assume one of your colleagues is on leave and maybe you are handing over. And maybe when you are on leave, maybe he or she gets stuck somewhere. Now remember you explaining that if you want to get this report, go to a folder named this name, and then its label, maybe November schedules 2025. So you see that with that, it's easy for you to direct and someone can navigate easily. So if you haven't adopted the correct naming structure and also the folder structure, it will be hard for you even to collaborate as a team. And also another best practice is on data accuracy. Make sure you implement validation rules, you remove duplicates, and also use named ranges. So named ranges is applicable especially when you are dealing with a large data set. And then version control. Make sure you save versions, also timestamps and file names. Access and security, make sure you've included permissions, protections, and also audit trails. You have backup and recovery, the strategy in place. So you should have regular backups and also offline copies of your data. Efficiency and automation, we've said you must have templates. So templates, when you're doing a report on a daily basis, it's not best practice that each and every day you begin from scratch, just doing the same report. So that way you won't be efficient. If that a report that goes out on a weekly basis, you can have a weekly template for doing that report. So your work will just be getting the data and dumping it to the relevant sheet, and the formulas being automatically. Or you simply uh, put the data on that sheet, and then you run a macro. And a macro runs formulas automatically. Also, macros can enable you immediately after you just uh, run it. So that is the importance of automation and efficiency. Not unless you are doing an ad hoc report. An ad hoc report is that report that you don't do on a daily basis. And normally, this report, you normally do it maybe when you are doing root cause analysis, like why did we have a significant drop in call volumes during these intervals, maybe in the last 2 weeks. That is when you can do an ad hoc report. An ad hoc, no, but you are just doing it maybe to deep dive into causes, maybe of a certain uh, impact in KPIs. That's what we aim to achieve. But if you're just doing the report that is on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a weekly, monthly basis, you can have a template for that. Can have a template. Yeah, and then the last bit we've said is documentation. So you must have a proper documentation for your workbook. Yeah. So when you implement this, when you are able to implement this as an MIS analyst or as a WFM analyst, you'll be termed as working in a professional way or working in a structured manner. So this is part of building the MIS and WFM infrastructure. Yeah, I believe up to that point we are on the same page. So I believe these are the things I've covered while I was um, explaining how you should go about worksheet management. Maybe one other thing that I want to add is now, assuming we have this, assuming we have this, we have you have multiple worksheets that you are working with. Say you have so many worksheets. So, and add one thing, for you to be able to add a worksheet, you simply come to uh, just on top of the taskbar here, where you see this like a plus icon, simply click on it and a new sheet will be added. So assuming you are having so many sheets, right? You see right now, it's not that appealing. You can now decide each sheet to have a different color. Let's say for glossary, I want to put the top color to green. See now, and then for cues, maybe I want put a different color. Let's say that color. For shapes, I put another different color. For breaks, another color. So this is another option for colors. Simply go to more colors. More colors. Yeah, now you can see, assuming even we don't have these other sheets, let's say we don't have these sheets. Always, always, and I repeat this, when you're having so many sheets or more than one sheet, make sure that each sheet has a different color. So at a glance, someone can see, yes, this is cues, this is sheets, these are breaks, this is a dashboard, this represents the glossary. So it makes navigation easier when you actually make each sheet to have a different color. This is sheet tab, different color, different color, different color, different color, right? With that, even your workbook looks presentable. Right? So that's the bit that I was almost forgetting. That is color coding of sheets. So different color. So what it does, it improves navigation and also reduces mistakes when you have more than 10 or more sheets. So I believe the rest of the things we covered regarding free spends is also part of workbook management. Assuming you are sharing your data to your manager, let's say, you have a workbook here, and let me just go to the workbook that we were using yesterday. So assuming you have such kind of data, assuming you have this data, so you share this data to someone. So how do you think they will interact with this data? Notice when I'm still scrolling downwards, I can't even be able to see the column headers of the field. So I can't be able to see this. So to make sure that whenever someone is interacting with our workbook or with our worksheet, if the data set is large, maybe more than 1,000 rows or even more than 100 rows, we can now decide to apply what is called free spends. And we covered this yesterday, whereby we said you are dispensing either the top row or the first column, right? So this enables people to interact with your workbook well, so that even if they're going through it, through your work, they can be able to know uh, or be able to see the column headers. If they are navigating maybe to the right, they should be able to see maybe the first column, this column A. And this, you can decide to also dispense it, so that whenever people are scrolling to the right, they can always see the first column, right? So that is also part of workbook management, and also is best practice to do that when you are having data that has so many records. Okay, that being said, still under workbook management, apart from that, there's this option for splitting windows. So you might find yourself one day you're working with data in Excel, but you want to keep track of various windows on what is happening at each stage. So we can now apply the functionality called split. What split does, it divides the window into different panes that each scroll separately. So for instance, we can decide to split this. So you see, I have split this window into two parts. So you can see whenever I move this part, this part here is constant. So I can scroll this separately. You see? And also I can also scroll this one again separately. So that I have applied the split function here. You can also decide whenever you are working with your data, a large data set, you might want to see maybe your worksheet side by side. So you can see I have the two workbooks, but I can see them side by side. So I have this contact center workbook data that has 500 rows, and I have this WFM schedules November 2025. I can see them hand in hand. That is, I have this visible. I also have this visible again. And after that option, oh, apart from that, I don't know if there's anything I'm leaving out. Is a new window and arrange. So we said a split window allows you to compare different areas of the same sheet. Like for instance, you can have morning versus evening call volumes. So whenever you are presenting, you can decide to have those windows side by side so that you can do that comparison, right? So we also have a new window and arrange. So for new window, you simply go to the view tab, then new window, and then you select arrange all, either to be tiled or vertical, stroke horizontal. And this is useful when reviewing raw data alongside maybe a dashboard. So let's see how we can do that. So, we've explored view side by side. So when you want a new window, view. So when you select switch window, you can see the description. It allows you to quickly switch to another open Excel window. So if you have multiple Excel windows open and you want to switch among them, you can simply come here, select a switch window. So under switch window, you see you have different these are workbooks. You have WFM schedules workbook, and then we have this one for contact center. So when you want to switch among those workbooks, you can do it here. So you can see I've switched to WFM schedules November 2025. And then another thing you can do is zooming and also the page layout. So zooming is easy. So that is easy because this tab here allows you to zoom in. This one allows you to zoom out. If you can see. So with that being said, I believe we've come to the end of workbook and worksheet management. So we've tackled documentation, cleanup, all that we've done. We've talked about automation, and then maybe an addition to that of what we've covered, so that I don't forget, is this option for data linking. So you can link your Excel sheets. So this is, for instance, formula references. You can link formulas from different sheets, and then you can include hyperlinks for navigation. That will explore when we are building Excel dashboards. So apart from that, we have common things that we should avoid whenever we are working with Excel workbooks. This is common mistakes that people normally do. So merging cells in tables. Yes, I remember we talked about merging cells, and we said when you are merging cells, it's either you want to uh, put the title of your report, and it should appear at the top, not in the middle of cells or at the center of cells. So avoid merging cells in tables, and then avoid mixing raw data and formulas. Don't mix raw data and formulas. Just as I had stated, raw data, it should stand on its own. It should be on its separate sheet. Formulas on their own, again, separate sheet. Don't use vague sheet names. Vague sheet names like names which are not descriptive. And then don't hard code numbers in formulas. Don't. Hard coding numbers in formulas can make your formulas not work sometimes. So normally it's good to use cell references instead of simply hard coding. And then linking to deleted external files. So just as I had mentioned, you can link your Excel files or you can link sheets to each other, but don't link sheets that are deleted or the contents where you are referring to have been deleted. So it's something that we need to avoid. And then editing protected sheets without permission, never. And then forgetting to back up your data, very important. Don't forget to back up your data. Even if you've downloaded it somewhere, always have a backup. It will save you one day. So I've taken you through these conventions of saving workbooks. So just a refresher for the navigation shortcuts. And I think this wraps it all. Apart from what we've covered, this is a bonus. So these are shortcuts for efficient workbook management. So if you want to open a new workbook, instead of you coming to, you can find yourself doing this. I want to open a new workbook. So you are coming here, new, then blank workbook. You can simply use this keyboard shortcut, Control N. So when you do Control N, it simply opens another workbook. So that is book 3 that has been opened. Control N again, it has opened book 4. So this allows you to be efficient, not always relying on the mouse, simply going here, coming to maybe new, and then selecting a blank workbook. So open workbook, it's Control O. So Control O. So when you press Control O on your keyboard, it brings you to this view. The same way when you're using your mouse. It's the same way like coming here, file, and then new, right? But that is a shortcut, Control O. It brings you to this page here. So another shortcut for saving is Control S that you know. In the so F12 is save as. So when you come to this workbook here, save as, Then you navigate to where you want to save your file. When you simply go to F12 on your keyboard, it will take you to where you want to save a work. So you see, immediately I press F12, it takes me to this page. So it allows you to save your workbook. So it's same way, like going to file, but coming to save as, and then you browse. So instead of going all the way, you simply go to F12, and F12 will take you to where you want to save your workbook. So when you want to insert a new sheet, so remember, whenever we were navigating and want to insert a new sheet, we were doing this. Come here to where we have this a plus icon, and then clicking on it, and a new sheet is being added. So we have a shortcut for that, and that shortcut is Shift F11. So when you come here, we press Shift and F11. You see Shift 5 has been added. Shift F11 again. Sheet 6 has been added. Shift F11. Sheet 7 has been added. So those are Excel shortcuts that can enable you to save time and enable you become more efficient. So remember, we are aiming for efficiency. So remember again, when you want to delete sheets, you press Alt plus H plus D plus S. That one will enable you to delete a worksheet. So traditionally, you should just come here and then click on delete. And then we have renaming a worksheet. So renaming a worksheet is Alt plus H plus O plus R, this shortcut here. Or alternatively, when you want to rename, you can simply come to that sheet and then right click. I find this easier, and then rename. Up on the same page, and then switch between sheets, control plus page up and page down. So switch between sheets. We have many sheets. Control plus page down. So you can see the way I'm switching between sheets. When I press Control plus page down, page up. So kama hauna mouse, if you don't have a mouse, maybe to navigate through sheets like this, like this, like this, you can use that shortcut. That is Control plus page down or page up. You can see I'm moving between sheets. So when you are working like that, you are working like an Excel expert. So we have the option for group sheets that you press Control and clicking the various sheets. And also we have the option for ungrouping sheets. That is you right click and then ungroup. Yeah, so that's it with regards to worksheet and workbook. management. I believe it has been a good session, though theoretically, but also very important. Yeah, so I now give room if there is any question or any comment before we end the session. So, Olivia, what have you learned?
Thank you, Fred. This one has been very interesting, especially the shortcuts. But now, the shortcut for adding sheets, which one is easier? Clicking on that plus or Control F11? Was it Control F11? Shift plus
Yeah,
F11.
so it
I believe
depends.
just clicking the plus is
Okay.
Yeah, so what do you have?
Okay. All right. So you're assuming that I do
Kama
not have
hauna
a.
mouse utafanya.
All right,
Yes.
but yeah, that was an interesting one. So basically, Excel ni interesting to as a whole. So far, so good. I'm loving it. So ni ku master tu kupata these things at our fingertips, just like you, the mwalimu, like kama mwalimu yani. Yeah, so I'm finding it interesting and hoping that nita pata ikiwa very interesting when again practicing it. Yeah. Na Fred, by the way tulikupatia
Interesting,
assignment ya
Olivia. Which assignment?
ya kutusaidia kutafuta desktop.
Which assignment? But now, Olivia, sometimes when you're dealing with a company, sometimes it is very difficult. So, currently, myself, I should just appear as an outsider because we have that thing of conflict of interest, so which can be very bad. So I shouldn't be appearing right. I'm pushing uh, for that, and unless if there is a way that it can be done, but from my end, I can't because it will appear as if it's a conflict of interest, which you know where that can lead.
Oh yes, I didn't think of it that way.
but wait. So I thought
Yeah.
when what Fred was assisting is making maybe getting someone who can actually give us this at a good deal.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Like Fred, it's hata haikaribiani na poa mahali popote. Sahii tukiwa hapa hatuko poa.
Oh, yes. So I was saying that because maybe I didn't get that part well. So I can look for a vendor the ones that I know and see whether we can how maybe a deal at a discounted price. So that one allow me to still touch base with the people that I know. Then I'll give you feedback.
Okay.
On the same page?
Yes.
Yeah. So by doing that, when you want to do these things, you really have to invest. And
Have
if you
you
don't
switched back
invest,
to
you not
poor?
learn. So, and investing means investing in tools like a desk, a laptop. But
Have you switched back to poor because you started breaking?
no, I haven't switched. It's just misbehaving. Uh, as just a few minutes ago, but I don't know if I'm still breathing even now.
No, all good now.
Yes, so I'm saying I'll give you feedback once I touch base with the people that I know who can maybe sell it to us at a discounted price. Sawa.
So
And then
good day
Olivia,
off.
I'm not Mwalim. I don't think Olivia started calling me Mwalim. Wow, she wants to take me to teaching profession.
Fred, this is actually like teaching us. You have to take that name.
Whether you like it or not.
Fred, the fact that you've already started this school and you're the person in it right now, you're the teacher.
Exactly. Na sijaanza kumuita profesa bado.
Na ndio hiyo sasa, hatujaanza kuandika mahali pale refer to. Sasa ni tuseme kama ni Dr. Fred ama yes.
Eish.
Mapema ndio best.
No,
Tupatie
don't give
title
me
ni gani?
titles. Okay, so I take the titles. Actually, sikatai. Sawa. So, you,
Yeah.
Violet, what have you learned today?
I can say today's class has been very interesting, as Olivia has said. Like you get to see it's okay. I was relating everything you're teaching us. I was putting it in the mind of how you write, how you come up with our rota. You see, so I was like, oh, so this is what you do. Oh, so okay, that is how I was putting it in everything you were doing. So it was every minute. So this is how you're able to put this and this together. So yeah, it has been a very interesting session.
Okay, good to hear that. So, and more things are to come. So, we are still just in the introduction phases. Yeah, Agnes, let's hear from you. What have you learned today?
Hapo kwa shortcuts, we can choose to go maybe on the long ways. Hizo za control HOS. They are shorter ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one you can maybe decide to use your mouse. These long ones, but the short ones you can simply use the keyboard shortcut.
Like the new workbook.
Yes. Okay. Or even saving and even save as inserting a new sheet. But this you said you prefer going with the plus, I know.
The plus is easier.
Here, inserting a new so you have to learn this Excel shortcuts. They will enable you to be efficient. Hope that's right. Yeah, so with that being said, we are 15 minutes past 9. So we'll just have to end it here. So I'll see you tomorrow. Just a highlight of what we'll cover tomorrow. So tomorrow we will deep dive into the introduction, contact center, and the BPO environment. And then after that, we will touch on contact center APIs. And then we will now move to the structure of contact center data. That is introduction to call logs, CRM exports, and ticketing. After that, also what I forgot on KPIs, we shall look both inbound and outbound KPIs as well. And then after we finished on that, that's when we'll go to introduction to call logs, CRM exports, and also ticketing, right? So that is what we expect next. And this we can cover in like two lessons, maybe tomorrow and maybe Thursday. And then we will move to week 2. So we'll be dealing with data cleaning and organization. So far so good. You've seen the progress, where we've come from. So we are still in the first topic, and I believe are the ideas that you've learned that will help you in your work. So with that being said, just to wish you a lovely night, and we meet tomorrow. So you now have an overview of what we expect for this week, and then upload it as well. So just before I end, let me not forget this to stop the recording.